Hi, everyone. I'm CEO of Freeverse, Alun, so it's a pleasure to be here today. The golden rule of public speaking is that you should never start a talk with an apology. And yet, I feel I must break this rule today for the appalling pun in the second half of my title. Here I am in the blockchain track of Pocket Gamer Connect, and I have the nerve to put a pun about the new business on the block in the second half of my title. So I apologize for that. And I also have to apologize for the first half of the title, because I've said Airbnb meets Fortnite, but I'm not really going to mention Airbnb, and I'm barely going to mention Fortnite, right? Except for the fact to say that we know how the free-to-play industry works these days, right? We all work in this field, and we know the free-to-play industry essentially monetizes our game time as gamers, right? We download the game for free, we're incentivized to play that game for a longer amount of time, and the developers know that the longer we play it, the more money we're going to pump into our usual in-app purchases or watching adverts or so on and so forth, right? And so at Freeverse, we have a vision because we think that the players want to do a little bit more with their gaming time rather than just play games and have fun. There are plenty of signs in the market that show this, right? One example, for example, is the black market. We know the black market. Back 10 years ago, there was all the gold farming in World of Warcraft. There's a black market for Fortnite skins now, talking about Fortnite again. Another sign that gamers want to monetize their time, do something more with their time, is eSports, like e-competition, that idea of trying to compete with other people instead of just playing the game for fun. And the third thing is the whole thing about social media, about Twitch and streaming and things like that. These people want to have a cut of the $150 billion, whatever it is involved in the games industry, right? So one of the common themes of this conference and blockchain-based games in general, right, is permitting gamers to truly own their in-game assets, right? This is something that you guys are very familiar with, I'm sure. Most of us know the benefits of digital scarcity and verifiable ownership. But what we want to do is go a little bit beyond that, beyond the idea of just speculation of digital ownership, yeah? What I'm interested in is, what if users could monetize their time playing the game, as well as the game creators? And I'm not talking about gambling or betting or competing for money, right? I'm talking about users extracting tangible value from the time and the effort they invest in playing the game, right? For the industry, that would turn the everyday user from not just a customer, but into a partner as well. So let me give you a quick example. Take a sports management game, such as a football management game, and where you are the owner, the true owner of the players of your team, right? So you get given 18 players of your football team, and as you play the game, you can improve the skills of those players. So the more goals you score, the more games you win, you go up the leagues. You can invest and train your players with the experience points you get from playing the game into improving their skills. They can shoot better, they run faster, they're fitter, etc. So you're playing the game, and through playing the game, you're evolving your players, right? So as you evolve your players, their value in the game gets higher. And of course, if you can then trade those players with other users, then you are creating a way where the user could potentially even earn money just by playing the game, right? And if you can trade in a way that's more familiar, that's not with cryptocurrencies or things like that, then you can create a game that would really bring blockchain-based gaming towards the mainstream market, which is something we're really interested in. So for this to work, you need to have three things, right? You need to have guaranteed ownership of digital assets. This is a given in this audience. We understand the benefits of that, right? You need to have an agreement on the rules that evolve those assets, right? So I don't want to have any doubt that my player has been evolved via some sort of hacky way. I want to be sure that the player has been evolved and changed, its attributes improved just by playing the game, right? And so I think with the blockchain now, we're getting to that with the programmable blockchain, where we can program the rules of the game into the blockchain to make that evolution guaranteed. And the other thing I want to talk about is a way of trading that's familiar, right? Not scary with cryptocurrencies, or no barriers to user experience with having to download a wallet or something like that. Why can we pay with in-app purchases or with credit cards or with bank transfers the way we usually pay, right? So I think if we solve these things, we may be able to help bring blockchain gaming towards the mainstream, because it's something I think we're all convinced of the benefits of blockchain gaming here, but it's not reaching the mainstream at the moment right now. And I want to try and find out what are a few of the problems and why that's not happening and what we can try and do to solve it. Okay? So, two of the many barriers there are in bringing such a games model to the bringing such a model to the games industry for blockchain. One is the evolution, and the other is payments, right? And to create a truly killer app, as I said earlier on, we need to go beyond collectibles. Yeah, we need to go beyond verifiable scarcity. We need to have games with truly mutable assets that can be played synchronously by millions of players, right? And the second one is payments, and I want to talk about these two things in detail now. So, why is scaling necessary? Now, this is an image I'm sure that many of you are familiar. This is Dragon, sold for 170,000-ish US dollars, right? And scaling to reach millions of players is absolutely necessary because of this game showed us, as it showed us that when CryptoKitties was at its height, it had, I think, 15,000 daily active users, right? The slides that John showed us earlier on were showing daily active users in the thousands. For the games industry, as John mentioned as well, such numbers are peanuts, right? If we want to really bring blockchain-based games to the mainstream, we need to have technology that can support millions of daily active users, right? So what can we do to challenge that? Well, one thing is to be mobile, to try and move to the latest, greatest blockchain that promises the latest speed and so on. That's not going to solve things. I don't think we're yet any of the blockchains are at the place where you can simulate millions of games and have millions of daily active users, right? The other thing you can do is create a layer 2 solution, right? So a layer 2 solution, you're executing most of the computations off-chain, but you're basing the game on the underlying, on a blockchain underneath it, right? And these layer 2 solutions are mostly limited to payments at the moment, or generic computation, right? So if you think, to do that, you're essentially creating a single computer that's going to execute, a single world computer that's going to execute the game code, right? And so what we have in Freevus is a novel layer 2 solution that solves that problem for one particular subgenre of computations, which is sports management computation. So our engine is capable of simulating millions of football matches for our football management game per minute, right? Which allows us to potentially support millions of daily active users. The other thing I want to talk about is payments, right? So, of course, digital assets exist in a blockchain environment, and whatever network you use is going to have its own cryptographical secure currency, and likely a selection of portals that permit you to trade those digital assets and convert real currency. And that's fine. You know, that's the standard crypto things that we don't want to move away from. There's the standard methods that the crypto community is familiar to use, yeah? The problem with that is that it's scary. For 90% of the people who are going to play your game, it's scary. People hear about the valuations of Bitcoin and ETH going up and down and fluctuating greatly. They have fear of really investing in that. And the other problem is that from a user experience perspective, it's extremely difficult for the average user to get involved with this means of trading in cryptocurrencies. I have to download a wallet, I have to go to an exchange, I have to provide my ID, I have to maybe upload, I have to do a transfer, and I suddenly got this thing, I'm not really sure what it is, right? So I believe that payment in fiat currencies, in euros and dollars and pounds, is absolutely essential for any blockchain game, any blockchain-based game, to break down that barrier and enter the mainstream. So at Freevus, we're working with a payment partner to do exactly that. We allowed our crypto assets, the players in our game, to be traded using fiat currency. And I think that's a really, really important point. If we manage to solve these two issues, the solution of scaling to be able to have the game played by millions of people, and being able to transfer assets with fiat currency, then I think we open three really amazing new business models that go beyond perhaps the standard business models there are in the games industry, and in fact, even in the blockchain-based games industry at the moment now. The first is you have this idea of high-value, unique assets. Once you know you've established the peer-to-peer market, you can leverage that market to introduce high-level assets into your game at the price you want. So, for example, if you had a football game where you knew that the players were trading at a certain level, then obviously the higher level players will be trading at a higher amount of money. You as the game developer could introduce a high level asset and sell that item directly to the player. So you're essentially undercutting the market, perhaps even controlling the market by introducing new supply of assets into that market at a determined level. The other really interesting thing that I want to talk about is, or I think is very important, is this idea of advertisers providing real value to the gamer, right? Right now, we all hate adverts in games. No one I know likes watching an advert. It gets in the way of your enjoyment of the game. But what if the advertiser could sponsor a digital item in the game that would add value to you as a player, right? Let's say Adidas wanted to sponsor 1,000 unique pairs of football boots that would give your players +5 speed for one season in a football game, right? Well then, you as the player would actively want to engage with the sponsor then, because you're getting something that is going to improve your player's performance and arguably then improve the value of your assets in the game, because the better your players play, the more valuable they are and the more you can sell them for on an open market, right? And the other thing is online competitions and eSports, right? So I think the fact you have this decentralized layer to your game gives the confidence to be able to do esports at scale and at distance. Right now, esports tend to be local competitions, and we think that perhaps there's a way of creating a new class of games where esports can be played at scale and at distance. So those are three of the business models that we see. There are, in addition to the standard industry models, of the usual ads and in-app purchase and stuff. And what we're really interested in then is where could this lead us as an industry, right? What are the potential average revenues per user when users see that spending money in the game is maybe an investment in their game rather than just unlocking a certain aspect of the game, right? This chart shows some of the yearly average revenue per users from different platforms. One of the biggest peaks here, the surprises here, is Fortnite, which has a crazy ARPU compared to some of the major services. And we wonder, our open question is, if users are going to truly invest in their portfolio of in-game items, not just based on their scarcity, but based on their usefulness in the game, what will the average revenue per user be? In the end, you're converting the user, you're adapting the user to be not just a customer, but a partner as well. And we wonder how much value is going to be added to the games industry if that becomes a reality. So, I described a generic sports management game, but of course I'm describing our sports management game, which is called Goal Revolution. We're on the second floor upstairs today. We've put the Sabutio set out so you can come play an old-fashioned table football if you want as well. And Goal Revolution does exactly that. It does exactly what we said. Our aim is it for it to be a mainstream game. We want to launch it. We want to have millions of daily active users. We're going to be soft launching it this spring. And then we're going to be global launching it later on in the year. It's going to be multi-platform, but it will have a mobile focus as well. And if you want more information, then please come upstairs to see us at our booth, or go to our website, goalrev.com, where you'll find more information. I'm just going to finish with a couple of looks towards different aspects of the industry. One is this idea of creating a layer for esports and bringing into the esports industry a more secure layer. I think that's very important. And I'm going to finish just going back to my very first slide as well, talking about Airbnb and Fortnite. Airbnb was the poster child of the sharing economy, right? The other one was Uber, right? This idea that you have something that is your possession or your time, and you can somehow monetize your possessions and your time via this platform that was created to be able to do that, right? We think that this would be a real step forward if you could do that in the games industry, no? So using this idea of digital assets that truly belong to you, that are mutable, that can change by the way you play the game. Technically then, you open up all sorts of possibilities about creating a sharing economy in the games industry. That's something that we're doing at Freeverse. We're welcome to come and chat with you, or you're welcome to come and chat with us any moment during the rest of the conference, and thank you very much for your time.
got a bit of time. If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand. Vlad has a question. Vlad always has a question. Wait for the microphone. And if you tell everyone who you are, so they know.
Hello, thank you for your speech. I have a question regarding...
Tell everyone who you are.
I'm Vladimir Tonk. I'm the CEO and game producer of Blockchain Cuties Universe, one of the top game in the industry right now. We also do fiat already. It's there, and there are many issues from our perspective that can't be solved right now. And you said that you're working with card acquirers, with banks that would probably allow you to sell everything for fiat, including the goods that players already obtained. So, for example, you bought a good, you could sell it to John for fiat. So how do you plan to do that, and whether that only applies to non-fungible tokens or to your in-game currency if it's based on some kind of token?
Okay, good question. So to answer the second half of the question first, it's based on the non-fungible tokens. So we want to permit a market for selling of players, which will be non-fungible, although technically in the game the players, now I think about it, are actually fungible because they have a career and they will eventually retire in the long term, right? So maybe, yes, they are classed as fungible tokens in that sense. We have a market, so right now what we do is we use method transactions to essentially put a lock on the crypto asset to make sure that once the peer-to-peer market has been, the price has been agreed, we as Freeverse never use that asset. We put a lock on that asset, and once we're sure, thanks to our payment provider using a bank transfer method, as you mentioned, a payment portal from a large bank in Spain, then once that transfer has been confirmed, then we release the lock on that asset, and that asset can be transferred. Then we facilitate the transfer of the asset on behalf of the buyer and seller.
Okay, and you said that at some point token might get fungible, so they retire. So will they be, if they're going to be fungible, they might be traded on exchange, am I right?
Yeah, we want everything to be traded in the same way as it can be usually.
You would need to do a KYC procedure under European Union rules, so it would be a very, very big barrier for at least 20-30 minutes for a player to bypass. And don't you think it's not effective at all in terms of acquisition and driving players into fiat so that it would be easier for them?
I think the simple fact is that if you don't drive players to use the fiat currency, 90% of people are never going to play your game, right? So we as an industry have to solve that, and we've come up with a way that we think solves that fairly effectively. It certainly doesn't take 30 minutes to do so, and I think we're happy to have this conversation offline. We can chat with our CTO as well, sure. And you can find out more information. But I think it's something, as a general rule, we need to push this forward because I think there's too much of a user experience barrier to only rely on cryptocurrencies at the moment.
And don't you use Nifty Gateway right now? It's already doing that?
No, we don't use that. We have our own thing we've done, yeah.
Okay, super. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No, and just remind people where you are. You're up.
Yeah, we're on the top floor, on the very top floor, at the back of the room. We've got the table football out, so please come and challenge us to table football and play the game. And we explain to you all about the transfer mechanism and all that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, you're welcome upstairs.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.